Hello, my name is Erin Jensen, and this is my presentation for project number 1. So as the title says, I think it is that to be ethically responsible to our students, we need to ethically teach AI and AI skills to TechCom students. This presentation is something that I've been thinking a lot about for the last several semesters as I've been personally doing research into AI use in the classroom and ways to use AI with my students. And so this last semester I taught a grant writing class, and that is really when I changed the class quite a bit to better meet the needs of students because I knew that AI was important to grant writing. And so, as you can see, the case study that this project is focused on is my own grant and proposal writing college course. It was a class designed for a master's of data analytics at my college. I also had a few undergraduate students who were interested in the topic as well in the class. And as we will find, AI is very much connected to grant writing, as with the onset of AI, it very much decimated the freelance grant writing area. And but anyway, the case study is grant and proposal writing in a college course. Okay, so looking at the situation again, AI decimated the freelance grant writing opportunities. I used to be, or well, I still am, lesser now that I'm in grad school, but I am a freelance grant writer, and so I have worked on small little educational grants all the way up to big health science grants and everything in between. And I have done a lot of working with small nonprofits to go in and either help them write grants or to give them advice on hiring grants. Really, with the onset of AI, I know that the need for people like myself to go in and write grants is a lot less. I know at the time of when AI had really become mainstream, I was working with a nonprofit to help them hire a grant writer, not myself, but someone else. And remember I was sitting in the office talking to the director, and she said, have you tried to write a grant on ChatGPT? And I said, no, I've used it for other things, but I haven't. And she said, okay, watch. She pulled up ChatGPT and she typed in write a grant for her nonprofit, and she put in an executive summary, an introduction, and a needs statement. And 30 seconds later, there was a grant. And I realized at that moment that my experiences as a grant writer were never going to be the same as what they had been. Now, that's not necessarily bad, but that is the reality that we are in. AI and grant writing are linked, and I would make the argument that they are always going to be linked because anything that helps write more quickly is going to be very much focused. It's going to be something that grant writing is also going to focus on. And then I think that we as instructors have an ethical responsibility to teach our students about AI and how to use AI, especially in this case study where we're specifically in a grant writing class. If I don't mention AI, I think I'm not being responsive to my students. I need to tell them about what they need to know as they take their skills out in the job market. Now, concerns, of which there are many, looking at bias, looking at where's the information coming from, where's that AI pulling from? Are they prioritizing some voices over others? Absolutely. Okay, equity again. Whose voices are they who are choosing, and who are they leaving out? Privacy. If I'm writing a grant on AI, is what I'm writing, is that going to then become part of AI? And what's to stop, as one of the articles I'll get to in a moment talk about, what's to stop a competitor, competing nonprofit from using the grant I've created for themselves? Authorship, who's really writing any of this? And then I think teaching concern as well. How do we teach students about AI? How do we do it ethically? So there were 4 articles that I found that I really wanted to highlight in this presentation. This first one is Sickle et al. It came out just about a month ago, and it is 10 Simple Rules to Leverage Large Language Models for Getting Grants. It's one of the first articles in a major journal to focus specifically on ethics, AI, and grant writing. And it is a fantastically well done article, really looking at the major concerns from an ethical standpoint. Their basic argument is you can use AI, but you do need to be very, very well aware of those concerns that I just listed on the previous slide if you do so. All 4 of these articles are ones that I have not used with my students, but I plan on using going forward, especially this first one, because it gives such practical advice for grant writing and AI. Robbins is the next article, is looking at ethical dilemma of professional grant writers and using AI. She herself is a freelance grant writer, a professional one that does it full time as her full time job. She really talks about AI from her experience of having her industry and her job and her livelihood be completely decimated with the onset of AI. She talks about many of the same things that the other articles talk about in terms of privacy, authorship, plagiarism, those type of things. Her overall argument, though, is it has changed how she goes about grant writing and what her job is, but it's not necessarily bad that it has changed. It just has changed. This 2023 article specifically is looking at computers in education. It was for a special issue on AI and computers, and there's 11 articles in the journal that are quite good and I would highly recommend. But I specifically like this one because it gave a really nice background and an introduction to AI and teaching. One argument they make, and I would echo, is they said we see a need to identify effective learning and teaching practices that will harness the weaknesses of generative AI technologies as opportunities for promoting higher order learning. And I appreciate that because I think we need to teach our students about AI in a grant writing class, for example. And these are opportunities for higher order learning, and but we've got to also think about how are we going to do that. And then this last one is a blog written by 3 researchers. Definitely, they talk a lot about needing to be aware of biases, but they also made the argument that we need to teach students about AI and how to use it. That we can't have grant writing classes if we're not doing that. And I really appreciate that argument, as I would make it as well. So these are some quotes that I pulled out. I'm not going to read through all of them. Robbins, who's a professional grant writer, said, in the realm of professional grant writing, the decision to use AI tools is inherently linked to ethical considerations. And I think that really sums up why I use this as a case study and why this is a important concern that we've got to look at. How do we ethically use AI? And we've got to teach our students how to do that. You know, the Psychology, the 10 Tips one talks a little bit about hallucinations, and I think any of us who's worked with AI know that there is false information that gets generated, and that's definitely a concern, and people need to go back, and we need to teach our students how to critically think about the information that is happening in these grants created by AI. The second article also goes through lots of grants are not allowing the use of AI. 3 do in some ways, like the American Heart Association. You can use AI, but you have to disclose that you did when you submit the grant. National Science Foundation, it encourages submitters to indicate if and how they used it, but there are warnings all over as well about fabrication, falsification, and plagiarization. And if you get caught doing any of those, that your grant's obviously eliminated, but you can also be banned from submitting again. So we got to talk to students as well. If you are using ChatGPT to create your grant, it could easily come up in a plagiarism scan because it's just pulling from things on the internet. So you've got to be aware of that and know how to change whatever AI had on that grant so that it's not going to be caught up in plagiarism. National Institute of Health said we do not know or ask who wrote an application, but again, they have warnings all over their system about automated systems for plagiarism checking. So those are all things that have to be considered as we're using AI for grants. So in conclusion, AI is not going away. I would say we're going to have this problem and this solution and this situation for a very long time. It will continue to expand and change. 2, AI and grant writing are linked, and they're always going to be linked because it's about writing. There needs to be ethical considerations for the use of AI in grant writing. And as a teacher, I feel like it is my ethical responsibility to teach Tech Comm students about how to use AI in grant writing, how to think about these biases and concerns, how to think about best practices of using AI, etc. And so that's really this project focus is. I appreciate that in my class I taught about AI and I had students practice using AI and we talked about how to manage AI and biases, but I think as with anything that moving forward, I plan to use those 4 articles that I mentioned before, and I plan to improve how I have taught using AI to better help students understand the skills that they need to know about using AI in their grant writing. Thanks so much.